Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very honoured to have the possibility to present to you the summary of the responses to the public consultation as regards the international dimension of the ERA and the ERA possible framework. Now, you have in the different presentations already seen different percentages. We had probably one of the least responses. However, still almost 60% responded. But what was striking was certainly the fact that we received 110 separate written contributions, and the importance of international cooperation was clearly acknowledged. So this is nothing else than the expression of the fact that we are living, as was underlined this morning, in a rapidly changing and multipolar world, that globalization is a reality, as was stated also in the morning sessions, and that science is increasingly international. We see that from the statistics, but we see it also, and this is a process, from the cooperation amongst scientists. Now, in the public consultation, we invited comments on what we, as policymakers, should think of when steering the international dimension of the European research area. So, the importance of international cooperation, as I said, was clearly acknowledged. International science and cooperation, and that was stressed as well, is not an end in itself, but it contributes to increased quality of European research, access advanced knowledge and know-how outside Europe, strengthens economic, industrial and technology competitiveness of Europe. It helps to solve societal challenges, whether they are grand or not, but they are societal and global, and it helps to facilitate access to global market. And one of the interesting things is that the responses also underlined, that this was not on the slide, when it comes to priority setting, grand challenges should actually be the guiding principle to determine the priority choices on what to do with whom. Participants in the public consultations reminded us that the most important element for Europe's attractiveness globally is a completed and smoothly functioning single market and well-functioning European research area. However, when it comes to reach out and to engage actively with a given third country, then participants taking part in the public consultation suggested that improved information sharing and coordination, development of a common EU and Member States vision or a strategy, which in fact is still lacking, for international S&T cooperation, coordinated initiatives by the EU and its Member States vis-à-vis and with third countries, and the involvement of stakeholders in policy design and implementations are key steps for the EU and Member States to maximise the benefits deriving from international cooperation. It was also repeatedly underlined that an element for international cooperation to be tackled is the openness of the European research areas towards third countries. For example, to ease entry and work of third country students, PhD candidates or young researchers into the European research area. So, in other words, to tackle the visa issue, which probably was already as well touched up in the researchers' session. Participants in the public consultation put forward a kind of wish list. What constitutes for them the main issues? International cooperation should be streamlined into area measures, and by that we mean, for example, the joint programming initiatives or cross-border initiatives should as well include an international dimension. The same goes for research infrastructures. They underlined the need and the importance of strong and operational links between area measures, so policy measures, and Horizon 2020. The European added value needs to be clearly determined. What does that mean? Shall we do things together or shall we do things separately? I think participants clearly underlined that we should do things together only when there is a clear gain for everyone and not just for the sake of working together. SFIC should play a more active role in European coordination and planning processes and regularly include the main stakeholders, being them the national funding agencies, universities or industry. Economic benefits from cooperation with third countries should remain in the EU as far as possible. In other words, not to give away, for example, technology. The reciprocity principles should be ensured. What do we mean by that? Cooperation is not and should not be intended as a one-way street. We should create the conditions which enable researchers to participate also in third country programmes on similar conditions as third country researchers participate, for example, in the 7th Framework Programme or in the future Horizon 2020. The bottom-up element in European R&D programmes to be maintained, particularly in cooperation with third countries. This was a recurrent concern during this morning's discussions. Researchers should be able to freely choose with whom to work, also to work internationally. We quote here, we give you a couple of examples. There is no hierarchical links, nor did we choose particularly these ones. It is just to underline of what I tried to summarize for you today. But because of lack of time, I will not go into now reading them out. Let me now conclude. Let me give you an indication where the Commission's thinking goes. Most importantly, the outcomes of the public consultation have reconfirmed our preliminary analysis where we should focus our policy attention. We want to strengthen the ability of the EU and the Member States to better benefit and to benefit more from international cooperation. We want to ensure a level playing field both for individual Member States and for the European Union as a whole. We want to ensure the interests of the Member States and the EU are taken into account when cooperating with third countries. For example, think of IPR protection. If we really want to properly address IPR protection, then we should also coordinate our positions, policies, when we engage in discussions with third countries. And that is, we want to coordinate positions, policies, initiatives, activities vis-à-vis and with third countries and in international fora. We want the EU and the Member States to engage in initiatives vis-à-vis third countries, as I said before, when there is a clear, well-defined European added value, when we all know we do gain benefits from working together. And last but not least, and this was confirmed strongly in the public consultation, we have and we will ensure a regular contact and dialogue with national research funding organisations, with industry, with universities on international science and technology policies, and involve them in whatever we are going to propose, so that not only can they be involved but also carry through the implementation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sigi. We can come back to possible questions in the end of this session. But now it's my pleasure to invite our next speaker, Professor Kohn, who is going to tell about European and developing countries' clinical trials partnerships, EDCTP. And I think this is a wonderful example of and wonderful case to tell how this kind of strategical goal can be achieved. Please.